Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about mental health, drug abuse and a few things and how it affects us. Now I spent a lifetime studying how people behave and the reasons for it, and the work I'm doing now lets me see it unfold before my very eyes. So it basically carries on with what I was already doing. But it does allow me to shine a spotlight on a few things. Now, if we take, say, drug use, I mean, people say, oh, cannabis doesn't really affect you. But I know people who smoke that all their lives, my age, and they've had severe mental health issues. There's no doubt about it, it's quite common amongst cannabis users to have certain characteristics when it comes to mental health. Paranoia being one of them. Being a bit schizo. Says these are all common traits. But again, if you use it to excess, this is when things tend to go wrong. It's always moderation in all things seems to be the rule of life. When you break that rule, that's when you start seeing consequences. Now, if we talk about, say, drug use, so someone might take cocaine socially, then take more and more and more, and then maybe one day their job changes, they can't afford to buy it anymore. Start looking for cheap alternatives, maybe having vodka, and then they can't have vodka, so they mix vodka with cider. And before long, they're an alcoholic as well as a drug user. And then they need to find a substitute for the whatever they're on, heroin or whatever. So they start looking for strong painkillers, and the strong painkillers are easy to get. So they go to the doctor, and the doctor says no. They go to A&E. A&E says no, we don't prescribe those things. You have to go see your doctor. They think, well, I need an injury, so they break a bone, give me drugs. And they still say no, right? Because they just put a pot on bones. It's not the kind of thing they give these prescriptions for out willy-nilly. So they do more damage to themselves till eventually they've got so many broken bones, it's like they've been in a horrendous train wreck. And they can't work anymore because they've basically crippled themselves. Now they've got less money coming in and they're starting to obviously suffer financially. Eventually they're out on the streets because they've lost their home. They're drinking, they're on all kinds of nasty, cheap drugs. They're turning up in hospitals, for treatment because of all the injuries they've caused themselves. And the hospitals are saying, sorry, we don't allow drugs or alcohol on the premises. You're going to come in, but not without any of them. You're there for 6 days without your favourite drug of choice or drink of choice, and you start going crazy. You start trashing the place, attacking staff. At this point, there's a danger you're going to be arrested and charged, or fined, or kicked out of the hospital. And eventually, you're too cabbaged, you're too far gone to even know how to pee properly. They put you in a nappy, you're walking around the hospital like a zombie, you're no longer capable of rational thought. And they take you away and lock you up. If they've got space for you. If they haven't, they'll probably kick you out in front of the hospital naked. If that's the way you came in, that's the way you leave. That might sound terrible, but that's the way it is. Right? And it's because of the choice people make early on without correcting the path they're on. They just follow that train wreck down, 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 down. And they don't recognise the harm it's caused. Not whilst they're riding that train. That train is just a steady decline. They don't see it happening. And it's the same with other things. It's like EUPD. Somebody who's close to me suffers from that. And it doesn't require abuse at all. All you require is an emotional child brought up by unemotional parents who then don't support the emotional child's needs. The emotional child needs to learn how to control their emotions. Instead, they say, you're acting up, stop crying, don't do this. The child never gets an opportunity to learn how to control emotions because they've been told not to trust their emotions. As a consequence, that child grows up with no control of their emotions. They need approval from their parents for everything. Their parents become surrogate emotions, a guide to what they should feel and what they shouldn't feel. And that's when the damage is done. So they just can't control themselves. They go from being happy to really sad, happy, really sad. They might feel suicidal, all kinds of bad things. They'll fall out with people on a frequent basis. They find it hard to make friends, hard to be social or socialise. You know, it's awkward. I mean, they were going to fall out of even their closest friends and family. It's just part of the illness. And it starts with a failure to understand this child has emotional needs. I'm an emotional person, and when I was in contact with this person, they got better. They were able to use me as a sounding board because I was an emotional person too. They were able to see how I dealt with things and they dealt with things, and they improved. There was visible improvements. However, eventually we fell out because that's the illness. That's the way it goes. I knew it was going to happen. I expected it, uh, but there again, you see, this person was close to me, and seeing the state they were in made me ill. I never had EUPD. I mean, they called it a kind of codependency. But I didn't look at them and hate them for not getting better. I looked at them and was ill because they weren't better. But it was a kind of codependency. But eventually my mental health declined. I was worried that they might burn themselves to death in bed, drown in the bath, choke on their own vomit from drinking too much vodka. You know, all kinds of things, right? They never recognised that. They never understood that's what was making me ill. That's why I was angry when I saw these things. That's why I always kick off. Because they were deliberately harming themselves or putting themselves at risk. But they never saw that. They never recognised the danger. They never connected my feelings about it all with what they were doing. But my health declined. And as it declined, you know, I became more like them. So I was feeding that emotional roller coaster they were. They were getting worse. You know, at the end, as my health declined, theirs got worse as well. Eventually, it all fell apart. But you can't recognise that roller coaster when you're on it. It's only when you're off of it and you stand back you recognise it. You know what's going on. But paranoia, unfair accusations, not really, how we say, respecting what people have done for you. These are all symptoms of what was going on in their head at the time. I did quite a lot for them. I know I did. Everybody else knows I did. But EUPD isn't a very, how we say, forgiving beast. But the thing to remember though is when it's happening to you, if you see a glimpse that something's wrong, don't dismiss it. It might be the only glimpse you get that you need to change your course. Because at the beginning, when you spot it, if you change your course, if you understand the nature of what you're going through, and you make changes, you might possibly avoid the worst of that train wreck, or avoid it completely, unless it was something you were born with or grew up with, in which case it's much harder to correct at a later date. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm going to get going now because the noise level in the background is going up, and there's quite a few things to say to this about this, and 8 minutes is already long enough. I don't want to go to 20 in one video and it would easily go to 20. But anyhow, if you have got a drug problem, remember there's always consequences, and you really don't want to end up being in a vegetated state in hospital, unaware of who you are. I mean, you could probably run around barking, wagging your tail, because even a dog would have a higher IQ than you. So don't let these social situations or social drugs get you down that far. Moderation in all things, and understand, right, some illnesses, right, do rub off. They do affect those around you. And this is why we have mental health stigmas, because people, it is very much like a virus. You don't catch what other people got, but it does affect you. So it might as well be catching. See you in the next one.